Welcome to Module 2 of the Commercial Onboarding Pilot. Module 2 hones in on what we do and where we fit as Constellation Energy in this vast energy industry. Module 1 provided a firm foundation for understanding Constellation Energy's significant presence and impact in the energy industry. From our retail and wholesale commodities teams to Constellation Home and Constellation Solutions and Navigator, we offer our customers unique and customizable solutions to power their homes and businesses with a focused commitment to reduce our impact on the environment and climate. Throughout Module 1, we focused on learning 1. The three parts of Constellation: generation, commercial and corporate, and how we all fit together. 2. The different areas of the commercial organization and how we work to meet our customers' energy needs. Finally, we learned that we are committed to fulfilling our climate commitments and living out our core values. In short, we are committed to accelerating the transition to a carbon-free future. Our agenda today includes an overview of the energy industry. We will discuss how electricity flows to our homes and businesses. An overview of the basic aspects of the energy market and how it's organized. An overview of the regulated and deregulated energy markets. And we close Module 2 with a look at how commercial operates in the energy industry inclusive of generation and natural gas. At the end of our session today, you will walk away with the following: an entry-level understanding of the energy industry as a whole, an entry-level understanding of the power industry, an understanding of generation basics, an entry-level understanding of the natural gas industry. To get us started, we will walk through the basics of the energy industry as a whole and dive into the details of the electricity aspect of our business. By definition, the energy industry is the entirety of all of the industries involved in the production and sale of energy, fuel extraction, manufacturing, refining, and distributing energy. There are various forms of energy used and methods involved to power our modern world. This can include fossil fuels, electrical power, nuclear power, renewable energy, and traditional energy. As members of the commercial organization, we help meet our customers' energy needs by trading, purchasing, and selling electricity and natural gas. With our purpose being to accelerate the transition to a carbon-free future, we do so by investing in renewable and sustainable energy sources. Before we can understand commercial's role in the industry, we must first understand the basics of electricity and natural gas. We will start with a look at how electricity is made, moved, and delivered to our homes and businesses. Generation. Electricity is generated or made at power plants using various energy sources. Remember, generation resources include natural gas and coal, renewable and carbon-free resources such as solar, wind, and nuclear. Thinking back to Module 1, Constellation's generation business provides energy by managing, operating, and maintaining nuclear, wind, solar, hydroelectric, natural gas, and oil facilities across the nation. Transmission. To move electricity, it must be transported from generation facilities or power plants over long distances. This vast interconnected system is often referred to as the power grid. Transmission wires, or big wires, often cross state lines and are regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, also known as FERC. Distribution. Distribution is the final stage in the delivery of electricity. The transition from transmission to distribution happens in a power substation and is usually owned and operated by our local, state-regulated utility companies. Consumer. As consumers, we are the recipients of the power supply. When you flip on a light switch, at home, electricity has gone through the generation, transmission, and distribution processes to provide us with energy at our fingertips. Let's take a quick look at the power grid. We could not transmit or distribute power without this system that ensures energy makes its way to consumers. The power grid includes power stations or power plants, where the electricity is made. Electrical power substations, that harness the power made from plants and transform it into higher or lower voltage electricity so it can be moved or transmitted through power lines. The power grid also includes transmission and distribution lines as discussed in the previous slide. Transmission wires carry electricity long distances. Small power lines or distribution lines, run by your local utility company, carry electricity into our homes and businesses. With the grid being a part of our nation's critical infrastructure, Constellation has an important responsibility to ensure the reliability of electrical output and to ensure the physical and cyber security of any touchpoint and to ensure assets are responsibly maintained. Now that we understand the basics of the industry, let's take a closer look at the responsibilities of the key players in the industry, starting with RTOs and ISOs. An RTO, or Regional Transmission Organization, and ISOs, or Independent System Operators, serve as a third-party independent operator of the transmission system. RTOs and ISOs are governed by FERC and were created to oversee competitive energy markets to guard against market power and manipulation, facilitate competition among wholesale suppliers, provide non-discriminatory access to transmission by scheduling and monitoring the use of transmission lines, perform planning and operations of the grid to ensure reliability, provide greater transparency of transactions on the system. An IOU, or investor-owned utility, is commonly referred to as a utility company. A utility company is the company responsible for providing your home with utility services, such as natural gas, electricity, or water. When considering electric utilities specifically, additional responsibilities include reliability and safety of the electricity distribution system, maintenance of the electricity poles and wires, meter readings and maintenance, connecting and disconnecting a customer's property to the electricity distribution system. An energy supplier, or provider, is a business or entity that sells power, such as electricity and natural gas, to consumers. Retail energy suppliers, like Constellation Energy, buy energy at wholesale from producers, or they may operate their own power plants such as nuclear generators, or wind and solar farms. Now that we have discussed the energy industry, how electricity flows to our homes and businesses and the players in the market, let's dive into the history of the power industry and deregulation. How did competitive power markets start? Prior to deregulation, decades of federal regulation had allowed local utilities to become monopolies. By 1932, 73% of the investor-owned electric industry was controlled by just 8 large utility companies. To prevent unfair practices, the U.S. government stepped in and enacted the Public Utilities Holding Company Act, PUHCA, in 1935 that aimed to regulate the energy industry and curb monopolies. Fast forward to the 1980s, and other industries like telecommunications and airlines experienced deregulation, leading to improved prices and services for consumers. The benefits of deregulation became evident, prompting a shift in focus toward electricity and gas markets. Deregulation of electricity followed in the 1990s after passing of the Energy Policy Act of 1992. This diagram walks us through a simplistic overview of the regulated customer choice model. As with regulated or deregulated markets, the process starts with the generation of energy at power plants. Power producers or generators compete to serve the load or demand of electricity, and from there, they transmit electricity in bulk to utilities. Each utility is then responsible for distributing the electricity to homes and businesses. In this model, customers do not have a choice of supplier. They are obligated to receive electricity service from the state-owned utility. Now, in reviewing the deregulated customer choice model, we can clearly see where retail suppliers, such as Constellation, come into play. The retail supplier connects the generation market with the retail customer, who now has the benefit of selecting a variety of products and services from the retail electric supplier of their choosing. Let's recap the difference between regulated and deregulated markets. Regulated markets don't allow customers to choose their retail electric supplier, and there's typically only one product to choose from, and customers have no control over price. In deregulated markets, however, customers can select their supplier and have greater product options and competitive prices. There is a greater focus on servicing the customer in deregulated markets as well. Before we take a deeper dive into the generation aspect of the energy industry, a basic understanding of the units of measure is key. The basic unit of measure for power is the megawatt, MW, which measures the rate of energy generated and made available to the power grid for consumer use. A kilowatt hour, or kWh, is similar in that it is also a unit of measure to capture energy consumed and is the common unit of measure used when billing a customer's electricity usage. Simply put, a kilowatt hour equals the energy consumed by a 1,000-watt device operating continuously for an hour. Similarly, kW, or peak demand, represents the maximum rate, or the most pressure, at which electricity has flowed during the time period. Remembering what we learned from Module 1 about the three parts of the commercial organization, our generation fleet of nuclear, hydro, wind, solar and natural gas facilities has more than 32,400 megawatts of generating capacity. That is enough to power approximately 16 million homes and businesses. Constellation's diverse generation portfolio serves our nation's energy needs with a mix of carbon-free and low-carbon resources. We also have annual output that is nearly 90% carbon-free, and we provide 10% of all carbon-free energy on the grid in the U.S. This is more than 4 times cleaner than our nearest industry peer. As you can gather, this fleet is critical to meeting Constellation's purpose of accelerating the nation's transition to a carbon-free future and is led by Brian Hansen, Executive Vice President and Chief Generation Officer. Just as Jim McHugh, EVP, and Chief Commercial Officer, is responsible for the performance of the commercial business where we sit in the organization, Brian Hansen also reports to Constellation's President and CEO, Joe Dominguez, and is responsible for our generation fleet. Constellation operates 2 primary generation divisions, nuclear and power. Our nuclear fleet generates clean, safe, and reliable energy from 21 nuclear reactors at 12 facilities across Illinois, Maryland, New York, and Pennsylvania. This powerhouse fleet produces about 150 million megawatt-hours of electricity every year. Our power division is also made up of electric generating facilities, but these utilize different fuel sources, namely natural gas, hydroelectric power, wind, solar, and oil. The power team operates 54 sites across 17 states and Canada, which are key to providing baseload, intermediate, and peak power generation in our communities. So far we've learned how electricity flows to our homes and businesses, the basics of the energy and electric industries inclusive of deregulation and units of measure. Let's switch gears and gain an understanding of another significant aspect of our commercial business, natural gas. We started our conversation today with an overview of the make, move, and deliver process that captures how electricity flows to our homes and businesses. The natural gas generation, transmission, and delivery process follows a very similar process, with the difference being how gas is generated in comparison to electricity. Let's take a closer look. Natural gas production starts at the wellhead, where producers drill for gas in different supply basins, as indicated by number 1 in this image. Next, it must go to a processing plant, shown in number 2. The natural gas must be processed to remove any water vapor, sulfur, oil, or other materials that are mixed in with the gas. The result is what we call pipeline quality gas, which is compressed to higher pressures in number 4 to make it easier to transport or store. The gas is fed into transmission pipelines in number 3. These large interstate pipelines deliver gas to the local utility system at high operating pressures. The utility receives the gas at a city gate station, as shown in number 7. The utility decreases the pressure to be safer and more usable, then delivers the gas to the end user at a home or business, which can be described as the burner tip. The utility is responsible for safe and reliable delivery to the burner tip. What exactly is natural gas? Natural gas storage is often held in inventory underground under pressure. Natural gas can be injected into depleted reservoirs in oil or natural gas fields, aquifers, or salt cavern formations. Natural gas is also stored in liquid or gaseous form in above-ground tanks. Where do we find and transport natural gas in the United States? Nearly all of the United States' natural gas needs are fulfilled with production right here in the U.S. In fact, in 2022, the U.S. was a net exporter of natural gas for the 6th year in a row. The top 5 natural gas-producing states include Texas, with nearly 25% of all U.S. natural gas production in 2022. Pennsylvania comes in second at 22%, Louisiana at 10%, and West Virginia and Oklahoma, both at about 7%. The gas is then transported on pipelines around the country. The U.S. natural gas pipeline network is a highly integrated network that moves natural gas throughout the continental United States. The pipeline network has about 3 million miles of mainline and other pipelines that link natural gas production areas and storage facilities with consumers. Did you know that renewable natural gas existed? Yes, it does, and Constellation works with both biogas producers and end users to extract the value of renewable natural gas. RNG, or renewable natural gas, also referred to as biomethane, is pipeline-quality natural gas derived from the decomposition of organic matter. It is originally produced as raw biogas and processed to remove impurities before being injected into a natural gas pipeline like standard natural gas. Sources of renewable natural gas include landfills, wastewater treatment plants, and commercial and agricultural waste digesters. Landfill gas makes up nearly 3/4 of RNG production in the United States. Some benefits of RNG include renewable energy attributes, and it requires no facility or equipment modifications to burn. Before we wrap up the natural gas deep dive, let's take a minute to understand units of measure for natural gas. First, we need to brush up on our Roman numerals, as well as understand the two ways of measuring gas. The first is based on volume, which is what the natural gas meter measures. This is typically captured as cubic feet in the US. The second measurement is based on the energy content of the gas, which is calculated as therms. In other words, when we burn it, how much energy do we get? That's the BTU factor, or heat factor. If you recall, natural gas has an acceptable range of components, including methane, ethane, propane, etc., and therefore can have a varying range of energy content or heat content. The gas must be sampled for calorimetric testing to determine the heat content. In the United States, the heat factor can vary by location, by type of natural gas customer, and may also vary over time, depending on the components that make up the natural gas. On average, 100 cubic feet, or 1 CCF, of natural gas equals 103,800 BTU, or 1.038 therms. Constellation sells and bills our customers in therms, decatherms, or British thermal units, B2s. Let's take a minute as we close today's session to recap the highlights of what we learned. 1. An entry-level understanding of the energy and power industry. We learned that the energy industry is comprised of multiple industries involved in the sale of energy, fuel extraction, manufacturing, refining, and distribution of energy. For electricity to flow to our homes and businesses, a process of generating, transmitting, and distributing energy requires handshakes between power plants or generators, local utility companies, and suppliers like Constellation. The deregulation of electricity and natural gas occurred in the 1990s after passing of the Energy Policy Act of 1992. 2. An understanding of generation basics. Constellation's generation fleet of nuclear, hydro, wind, solar, and natural gas facilities has more than 32,000 megawatts of capacity. We provide 10% of all carbon-free energy on the U.S. power grid. Constellation operations 2 primary generation divisions, nuclear and power. 3. An entry-level understanding of the gas industry. Natural gas follows a similar generation, transmission, and distribution process with similar players. However, the difference lies in the generation of natural gas versus electricity. Natural gas needs are fulfilled with production. The United States. Renewable natural gas, or RNG, includes renewable sources such as natural gas, landfills, wastewater treatment plants, and commercial and agricultural waste digesters.